Hi everyone, this is Kyle Marshall, aka Againstime from grinderschool.com. Today I'll be playing a series of seven-handed tournaments on Ultimate Poker. These are similar to the Poker Stars structure in that they pay out the top three players. The blind levels are also the same except for you start in the 15-30 instead of the 10-20. The only difference is seven players instead of nine. This makes for lower variance, but also less reward towards the higher end of the prize pool. I think it kind of balances out. I like this structure. I don't think it's drastically different. You will start to play more for ICM earlier in the tournament since the bubble approaches more quickly. And so I like to actually shove more aggressively in these tournaments than I do the others. I also play an even tighter game in the early levels than I might in the nine-handed comparatively. So anyway, we've got two of these going here. I will have more loading up as we go along. I don't recognize very many of these players. Player one is a solid reg that I play against occasionally. Texas Fight is a player I've run into before. I don't think he gets in a lot of volume, so I don't have a lot of information on him. We'll just fold this ace-8 offsuit and hijack in this level. Any level later than this, I would definitely be raising it. We'll certainly raise this. I'll just make it 225. We can't quite shove because this player is so much deep, and so our effective stack here about 15 blinds, so we'll just make the raise. We will be happy to get all in with either of these two players, though. Earlier you saw me, I think player one made a raise from the cutoff, and I had sixes on the button, and I 3-bet it earlier on. Against regs, I like to do that. I find that they're generally c-betting the vast majority of hands there. They will continue to try to push me off. If I 3-bet right there, I get a lot more information. I would do the same thing with a stronger hand to blend my range. Some regs will shove over the top of that too. It wouldn't be bad to flat call there either. You are getting set odds. I just like to play it more aggressively than that, especially against a reg. Go ahead and raise here with the fours. Pretty much any pair you get in the hijack and later should be a raise if you're the first to enter the pot. There'll be very few exceptions to that. Even into 5 players, I would be raising this hand in this blind level pretty much all the time. Just let these pans both go. You'll notice that, and this is a little bit of change from how I used to play it on Poker Stars. Even in the 15-30 blind level, my raises are 2.5x or smaller. In the 10-20, I like to do 3x still, and in the 5-10 as well. Some of these tournaments do have that. But after that, anytime my effective stack size is something like 50 blinds or less, I like to go ahead and 2.5x it. We will sort these tables a little better here. Looks like we have another one up. I will try to load a couple more. I don't like to play more than 4 at a time, so I have sufficient time to really discuss the hands. We'll go ahead and queue one more up here. We also have most of these are going to be the $8 tournaments because that just happens to be what runs mostly late at night. I'd be happy to play a higher buy-in, but as you can see, there's not really a lot loading up above what I'm playing right now, so we'll just stick to these. This should be pretty good. I think most of you are probably playing in between like the $5 and $20 range, so this is kind of in the same ballpark. So you should be getting a lot of information that really will help you in your games as well. They did announce recently, for those of you playing in Nevada, that they will be allowing, or not Nevada, New Jersey, they will be allowing HUDs on at least WSOP.com. That's a pretty important step. It's the first American sites to really just go out and outright say it's okay. We'll call here for 70. I often like to fold in this situation, but I think we'll get a flat from this player as well, and if he raises it up, we can just get out of the way. So anyway, it looks like HUDs are kind of coming back to the American sites, at least in New Jersey, and probably soon Nevada to follow. So that's good news for any of you looking to grind out there. We're just going to check this down with the Jack 10. player all in, no reason to get cute. Even here on the river, I'm just going to check. We don't have a club. Our top pair is not especially strong. Probably won't be getting called by anything that we can beat here. Fold the 4-8. Would have committed ourselves against the big blind had it been folded against us here. This is a good raise size as well. I'm not particularly a big fan of min raises because I think you get a lot more action that way. Um, the thing about raise size, what you're essentially trying to do is you want to spend the minimum chips to get the highest fold equity without really spending too much. For instance, like if you make a 5x raise, your fold equity may be something like 90%, but you're spending so much more every time that you steal that it's actually less efficient. The same thing would be true with maybe a min raise in the opposite direction. If you're always spending the minimum, well, you're spending less to make that raise, but a lot more players are coming along because of that. So you kind of need to find an optimal balance. In my opinion, it's somewhere between 2.25 and 2.5x in general. We'll just call this raise right here. It would be okay to 3-bet as well if you know your opponent. And we'll just check this. Raise here with the ace-5 on the button. This is a tough spot with the jacks with this ISO raise. I don't really have any information at all on this player, especially without a HUD. I don't recognize him at all, so it's kind of hard to range him here. He did raise pre-flop over a limper with a fairly strong raise, and then he leads out here. I'm going to shove over the top of this. There's fully a third of my chips in the stack. I have an overpair with a draw-heavy board. I think this would be a good opportunity to lead out here and take it down. My opponent leads into me here for 150. I initially raised and he donk bets out. I do have top pair and I have a backdoor or mid pair with a backdoor flush draw. I think it's sufficient to go ahead and just call there. You could also raise, but if you're beat, you're raising all in, so you're risking your whole stack. We'll let these go. Fold here, and we'll just go ahead and follow that up again. We don't want him drawing for free there, even with the 5 that we hit on the turn. A lot of times when players donk bet out like that, if you know them, you can consider an expensive check and just raise really with nothing there. But without knowing the player, I think in that particular spot with the draw that we had also available, it's just best to flat. Again, if you're raising there, you're raising for your tournament life, and with mid pair top kicker, it's a pretty risky raise. This is my standard raise, 2 1/4 in this blind level, and it pretty much stays around there from here on out. I consider this a particularly good board for us. There's a lot of draws here. We want to go ahead and bet big. I'm going to make it 400 and commit on the turn. This pretty much lines up the stack sizes perfectly. If he shoves, we'll have to call here. We're definitely committed on this board. We're not giving him great odds to draw either. 2/3 pot is usually a pretty good sized bet. If the turn bet gets you all in like that, it lines up really nicely. This is a marginal situation. You can raise or fold. I'm going to elect to raise this time. Wouldn't hate a fold here. Even a limp's not especially bad because of the depth of stack sizes, but into 5 players or fewer, I generally just raise if I'm going to get involved at all. Here we raise pre-flop, hit a queen. I'm going to make a fairly stiff bet out here for 210. Not looking to let this go. Here, we'll just let this go against this 3-bet. This is a reg. We're raising it into 5 players and he's 3-betting us early on. His range here is fairly tight. Probably something along the lines of like 9s, ace-jack suited, ace-queen or better, something like that. This is a shove with a 9-8 suited all day. Fold the ace-3, fold the king-6. King-10 of diamonds here, you can raise it or you can limp. I think folding's the only wrong play. We'll limp because of the under the gun limper and we'll just try to get him for cheap here. This is a shove all day as well with the jack-10 suited. 10 blinds into even 5 players here is an auto shove, so we'll go ahead and make this one. This table, the blind sizes are lining up really well for us to shove aggressively because everyone has enough chips that they're still in a competitive state and no one's really looking to take unnecessary risks. Okay, here we get a bet. There's still several players behind us. Everyone's checked. I'm just going to raise it up to isolate this and kind of find out where we are. There are a lot of draws available, and I want to get some more information. If he comes back over the top, we'll know to let it go. Okay, we do get a call here. Turn card can complete some straights. We'll have to play cautiously here. We get another lead out for 50. I'm going to raise it up one more time. If he comes back over the top, we are going away. We'll just call here. I rarely do this, but we're getting excellent odds. I normally like to 3-bet. Our opponent calls again. We're hoping for a check. If he shoves into us, we'll fold. He checks, so we'll just go ahead and check behind. I don't think we can bet here and get much more value. Looks like we did get some value out of our hand here, though. Checking the threes is okay here. It wouldn't be awful to lead out either. Let's go ahead and check this down. 10-9 of spades. We'll limp with good odds. Don't really want to ISO raise against the short stack. We'll let this one go. Alright, I will not be loading up any more games for a minute. We have 4, and then I have a backup game as well. Sevens, this is a really tough spot. I'm going to shove it and then explain why. These players all have less than 10 blinds. This player has right at 11. This is the only player we're really shoving fairly deep into, and he only has 13 blinds. And since we're under the gun, the blinds are about to go through us, I think it's better to go ahead and just shove it rather than raise and put ourselves in a potentially awkward spot. Plus, it preserves our previous action. We've been shoving rather than raising the last few hands, and so it blends it better, and we have a fairly strong hand there, so perfectly fine. One blind deeper, and I would have elected probably for the small raise rather than the shove. We'll continue this game here on the side. If this were a reg, I would call actually with the queen 9, but I don't know this player. If I see him do this a little more, then I'll be more inclined to call. It's a marginal call at best, but against someone, a reg who may be shoving as much as like 85% there, then you really have to call with queen 9. Against an unknown, that is just a fold, and even if they are shoving that wide on you, you're losing so little equity by folding that marginal spot that it's better to have the full information rather than to take the risk. It's probably like a gain of like 10 chips if they're shoving super wide or something really narrow, but it is worth taking if you do have that information. Let the 2-5 go. King queen here we can raise. We'll have to call either of these players if they become a ball. We'll just let the ace-6 go. We're shoving or folding at this point, and with this player limping and me knowing how strong he is, I don't really want to limp behind that. We'll shove the ace-jack. These players all have 10 blinds or less. Standard shove. Standard call. This other table, I'm gonna limp with the king jack behind a limper. I will be bringing that out as soon as one of these games finish for you guys to watch as well. Hasn't really been much action over there. I'll bring it over just so you can see. I had one limper and then I just limp behind. Some player does a ridiculous shove, and then of course I'll go ahead and fold the hand here. Obviously not getting involved. Let the 3-4 go. Well, I guess for 73 chips we probably could have come along there, but not a big deal either way. Most of these are going fairly well for us so far. We'll be moving into the high blinds on almost all the tables here in a moment. Okay, here with the queens, you can play this a variety of ways. I'm going to raise it up to 300. Against regs, a lot of times I'll limp and let them try to shove over me as they like to do so deep, or get in situations like that. But against players that I don't know, I pretty much play it more straightforward. We're going to lead out here fairly strong, and we'll be looking to die for the hand. It's okay to raise this into 3 players effectively. The heart comes on the turn. Could have made a flush for him, but we're committed anyway. He's got less chips than are in the pot, so we'll just shove it. Fold the 10-6, fold the 9-7. The 10-6 here is not a bad shove. It's not a great shove either. It's kind of marginal. We're in second. It's kind of an unnecessary risk. If I had this player's chip stack or this player, I would have done it. But there are definitely some situations where I would have shoved that. We'll just fold this ace-10 against the fairly early position raise, early mid position. And that's just because of the early blind levels there. Alright, Queen 7's a fold, 9-4's a fold. King 10 on this table, into 4 players might be okay, into 5 on this blind level, you just let it go. Fold the Jack 5. Looks like a pretty standard race here. Well, not much of a race, I guess. Here, if we had some fold equity, I would resteal with this hand, but I mean, player raising, such a large percentage of their stack, we're not getting folds very often. Fold the 10-9. If we both had like 15 blinds there, it would have been a really good resteal opportunity. This is really close. If we raise here, we're committing against any of these players. So we're really looking to shove about 10 blinds into 3 players with ace rag. That's not a bad shove at all. I really think it's unnecessary with our chip stack size and these players' willingness to get all in. Just to give you kind of an idea, this is going to be a fold up here with the Jack Deuce suited. Actually, it's a marginal. A shove. It's going to be a marginal shove, but it is a shove. Just to give you an idea here with this Ace 3, I would have shoved Ace 5 or better all day long and any suited ace. If I had this many chips, I would shove any ace. But when I have a deeper stack like this and don't really need to take risks, I think you can fold those Ace Deuce through Ace 4 offsuit. There is probably more optimal. Fold the 10-9. We'll bring this game up here. If we can get it to show, we'll fold the Queen 10. Fold the King 7. This you can call with odds here. We're getting 2-1. Getting 2-1, if a call would close out the action and a loss wouldn't utterly cripple you, you should make the call based on odds, which I did. 8 blinds into 3 players. We'll fold the 10-8. Would have shoved it for 7. Would have shoved 10-9 offsuit as well. King 9 here will limp. And again, this is an odds-based thing. You could call with any 2 cards here, so certainly 10-8 qualifies. Alright, King 9 here in the small blind. We'll just check it out with top pair. You'll notice that often in the early levels I don't lead out in those spots. We'll shove any 2 here. Haven't done that too much. He may wake up with a hand that can call us, but we definitely haven't been leaning on him that much, so we need to take advantage now before our chip stack completely diminishes. Fold the 5-3. King 9 here, we checked and we get a bet for 50. We'll just call this. Just try to see a showdown for cheap. Fold the Queen 5, fold the Jack 6. King 10 here, 8 blinds into 4 players is a shove. King 9 here. This you can go ahead and check again. Our hand still has showdown value. We're still drawing. No reason to build up the pot early on here. This is close. Go ahead and let this one go. Haven't seen too much of that in the small blind. And we'll go ahead and try to get some value out of our pair of kings here. We played it pretty passively. Shove the Jack Deuce suited for 10 blinds and blind versus blind. Shove the Ace 10. Looks like we took that one down. Good call with the King Queen. Nothing wrong with that at all. Here, not quite getting odds, just let it go. We were not able to win our race on this table, but did cash. Let the 5 deuce go. Go ahead and just shove the aces, no reason to get cute. King 9 of spades is a definite raise on the button. Alright, we're going to close out this game and bring the other one over. Just shove the kings at less than 10 blinds. Don't get cute about it. It's best to always just do that so that your range is blended and is less transparent what you have. Against players who don't know you, it's better to choose an exploitative route, whatever most takes advantage of their weakness. But against players who do know you, it's best to blend your range, and you'll actually make more money that way. This player is shoving here with just 5 blinds. Don't particularly like it, but I'm going to isolate because we're ahead of that range all day long. You would have to assume that any player here would shove with a number of hands that we'd be ahead of. It just so happens that we're not ahead this time, but 5 blinds under the gun, I would say a player is shoving pretty much any suited face card, even players that don't really know how to shove correctly. There'll be a lot of hands they'll be getting involved with here, and nothing wrong at all with this ace king coming in from behind. King jack here, standard raise. Just to give you an idea, on 5 blinds under the gun, a reg will be shoving, a lot of regs shove any 2 there, so ace is way ahead. So there's no question isolation against a reg from the button is fine, especially with being less than 10 blinds. Against the non-reg, it's harder to tell what their range is, but even so, something like, I mean, we'll just let this king queen go. They're still shoving any ace, any pair, any suited king, anything like king 9 or better all day long. There's a really, we'll just shove this. 11 blinds is, or 12 blinds is the deepest opponent stack. They're really shoving a lot of hands that are ace high beats, and since there's not too many players behind us that we're isolating through, I think that's a good way to go. Easy shove here with the 7s, easy call here with the ace king. Just another flip. There'll be a lot of situations like that where you're getting in flips later on in the tournaments, and unfortunately sometimes that's what it comes down to. But our goal is to try to build up chips as much as we can in the mid and high blinds before that shoving stage, so that we don't have to just make those flips. All right, we have effectively 4 players behind us because we have this player sitting out. Actually, 3 right here because this player is out. So I'm actually going to shove this. This is not a standard shove. If you just looked at this at face value, this would be a fold. But with this player sitting out and this player with 1 blind, these 2 players effectively aren't at the table. So I'm shoving 10 blinds, 10 and a half blinds with the suit ace these 3 people with, which if you use sit and go wizard, is an absolute standard shove that you'd make all day long. Of course, when things don't work out, we would want to not have done it, but no, this is definitely a profitable shove. Now, if this player were not sitting out, I wouldn't have made it. But of course, you have to take advantage of all the information you have at your disposal. All right, should have another one loaded up here pretty soon. Fold the 10-7. In general, you can shove, I want to say, any suited ace for 12 blinds through 3 players. Um, that's probably the loosest general rule for suited aces I could give. So 11 blinds there with the player sitting out, and the 1 short stack is in the same ballpark for sure. This is a mistake. I don't know what this player's hand was, but in general, there's no hand that you would want to have that you would have like 10 or 11 blinds and be raising and folding with, even with the shove and the call here. I mean, his hand shouldn't have been anything worse than what we're seeing here if he was willing, to raise it at all. And really, whatever hand he would be willing to play, he should just be shoving. King Jack here, we have 10 blinds or less on 4 players. This player is essentially all in already. We'll shove that all day. This is an easy call here with the ace queen. Nothing wrong with that. 10 blinds here into this many players. Even king 10 you could shove here, and like a king 8 suited to give you an idea. We'll be looking to shove this if it's folded to us. We're getting to the point, we're not really committed with this hand, even with odds, but we're getting to the point here where we'll have to be looking for anything decent. I would have called here with like even like a jack high, anything viable at all, but we'll let the 4-8 go. We'll try to get maybe one more of these if it'll load up relatively quickly. Fold the deuce 4. Looks like we have some other collisions going on. Alright, cash in this one as well. So I haven't had the best of luck this session, but not the worst either. Here with the ace 9, player raises him from the hijack. This is super close. Um, in general, I'd say to let it go. I feel he's committed here, and he's raising into 2 short stacks knowingly. I would be more inclined to put him on the stronger end of his range there. Even so, ace 9 isn't necessarily behind it. I wouldn't have hated a shove there. Ace 10, I'm going all day. Any decent suited ace, I would have shoved over it. I probably have a little more fold equity than I expect, but it shouldn't be very much at all, not even 10%. If you weren't raising into the short stacks, I might be more inclined to believe that he had a weaker hand there, but looked a little suspect to me to get involved. Looks like we can get another one of these maybe if I can register it quickly enough. Nice. Let the king 3 go. You shouldn't be making this raise with pretty much anything. Just shove or fold it. Some might make arguments that you get more fold equity this way. I don't know that that's really true. I definitely think it's better to blend your whole range though, because if you're only making that hand, that raise with super weak or super strong hands, players will pick up on it eventually when they play with you enough, and then you're really just giving away information because everyone knows you're committed to it either way. Let the 6-7 go even with the 2 lumpers early on. Alright, that will be my last game to load up for this video. Should get us a pretty good amount. I'll raise a 75 here from the hijack. Queen 6 will let go. If it weren't for the short stack, I probably would have shoved that there. He's just so much more inclined to call. It probably almost doubles his calling range to be that short from what it would normally be. 8 blinds here from the hijack. We'll go ahead and go with the ace 7. Don't really want the blinds to go through us. I don't consider this a great shove. I consider it kind of a marginal shove, but it's still one we need to be making. We'll let this ace 8 suited go. One important thing to be wary of in both directions really is if you're making shoves that you know to be profitable shoves due to ICM and you've studied them and you're confident about them, even if those shoves aren't working out for you, which has been the case this session, even if you're running into big hands and it's causing you to bust, feel confident in that you're making those shoves that you should be, because a lot of the times players won't be waking up with those big hands behind you and you'll profit so much more because of that aggressiveness. And so it's important that despite negative results in any particular session, that we ignore those and make the best decisions we can so that in the long run we're making the most profit. One of the worst things you can do is when shoves don't really work out for you is just naturally tighten up and let players run over you, because you're basically just prolonging your luck there, your bad luck there, and assuring that your downswing will last even longer. Always just make the decisions you know to be most optimal and ignore the results in any particular session would be my suggestion. This board is very coordinated and we get 3 calls with the player all in, so we'll just check this down and hope to draw. Queen 10, let it go. Even with the pair of 10s here, we're not really confident with our hand at all. Just looking to check this down. Here you can call for set odds with the deuces. It's not a great call out of position, but it's not an awful one either, and we have enough chips we can speculate a little here. We'll just let this go. There's too much out there to get involved. Let the deuces go as well. It's like both players had the straight. This is an easy shove all day with the ace-8 suited. This is a fold. I'd like to raise it, but there's just 6 players behind us, and one of them's nearly committed. I think it's a better time to just let that one go. It wouldn't have been awful to raise. The only mistake I can see really is limping here would be the worst way to play it, because you can't limp and then call for set odds. So either raise it or fold it, and I think folding is in general a little better. You can't call any resteals or 3 bets, and you're only flopping a set one time in 8. Definitely don't think it's worth it to get involved here. Be looking to get involved with the 9s, of course. Now we have a really awkward stack size here. I was hoping for another player to call. Um, we want to 3 bet this, but we want to keep it small enough. I think we really need to call with the 8s here with as few chips as we had, even though he might have a strong hand. And we'll go ahead and lead out here. Alright, this turned out, I'm surprised he actually had a hand that weak. Here, what I was trying to do, I want to 3-bet and take the initiative in my hand because I think I'm ahead of his range, and I don't really want to call and play out of position with the 8s or with the 9s. But it's kind of a tough spot because 3-betting and then leading out there puts us in a pretty committing situation. So you notice I made a little bit smaller 3-bet and a little bit smaller c-bet, so I had some room to maneuver with the hand. It is a very difficult spot to play right there, though. If we had a few less chips, I would have just shoved it, and a few more, I would have made a more standard size 3-bet there, just to give you an idea. And the size of the 3-bet is not dependent really in that situation as much on the strength of my hand, but on the awkwardness of the chip stacks. Probably would have made the same re-raise there with aces just to blend it all. We'll let this 10-4, having no chips committed, go, especially against the short stack here. This player raises from the hijack. We're ahead of a hijack range. This is super awkward. I'm just gonna get it in here. I really hate this situation with the 25-50 blind level because what happens, the way it lines up is when you're in position, it's okay because you can flat call and float, or you can make smaller three bets and take the initiative in the hand. But when you're out of position here, like if I were to have made it like 375, and then I c bet, let's say even just 400, one of the smaller c bets I can make after, then I've already put in more than half my stack, and I'm out of position. If he floats me and I miss, I'm really in a spot where I can't do much, to be honest. And so a lot of times, if you know a player to be raising pretty light on you in those situations, then it's okay to three bet shove out of position up to, I would say at most like 25 blinds, and it's not probably the most optimal way to play it, but it is a profitable way to play it, and it's safe. If you know your opponent a little better and their tendencies, then you can take more exploitive way to play. But if you don't really know, then I would suggest in that spot just shoving it. We get a re-raise here, 174. I'll just call this because this player likes to float a lot. Maybe we can get away with that. I'll shove over this limp all day with the king jack suited. We do get to see a flop here, which is what I was hoping for. And we'll go ahead and lead out with the top pair. We won't be letting this go. In fact, I would even suggest the pot is almost the size of my remaining stack. We'll just go ahead and commit ourselves here and shove the ace-7. If we had a little more, like 1400, I might make it 600 on the flop and then 800 on the turn and just get all in, just to give you an idea. But with the pot being the same size as our stack, best to just go ahead and get it heads up with what was the best hand at the time. Let the 4-8 go. Let the queen 4 go. Luck is Real is a player who I have a lot of respect for. He's probably one of the toughest opponents on the side, if not the toughest. And so he's definitely a reg that I take note of. He doesn't play as many of these $8 ones, but he's in the $17 ones all the time. And he plays also even higher stakes than that. He's a very strong reg, and he's someone to watch for. This is closer to a shove than you might think, but not quite good enough with all these short stacks. 5-7 suited I would have gone with here. And even like a 7-8 offsuit maybe, especially when the player in the big blind has a little more chips in the small blind. Our odds are too good here to fold. Getting 2-1, right at 2-1 with the hand that's actually even ahead of his range. This is interesting. I'll go ahead and shove this. I know this player. I know I'm ahead of his 8 blind range here. The problem is it enough to ISO against 4 players behind me? And I don't think so. I wish I had a little less. His range here, even though he has 9s this time, I play against him a lot. 1 second. All right, we get a limp here. I'll go ahead and shove over that limp. This player for 8 blinds would shove as loose as I would probably into this table. He would shove any pair here, even deuces. And so I like getting involved with the 7s. The only problem is that we had 4 players behind us and 16 blinds fully, and so it kind of made it a little worse of a spot. If we had a little less, though, I would have gotten involved. We took it down here with the ace deuce after the limp. Just shows you this player is willing to limp for almost a quarter of their stack and still let it go. That's pretty bad. Yeah, 8 blinds into 6 players. If I were to guess what range he probably had right there, I would say deuces plus, ace 4 suited plus, ace 8 plus, king 9 suited plus, king jack, queen 9 suited plus, queen jack, jack 9 suited, 10-9 suited, 9-8 suited, something like that. It's very wide, and so definitely getting involved there with 7s is reasonable if our stack size is conducive for it. And again, this is just because it's a reg that I can pinpoint it so close. Had it been Luck is Real, I actually would have just gone ahead and got it in with the 16 blinds or whatever because he's shoving even wider. He knows exactly how to play the shove game, um, and so he's harder to read in the early blinds, but he's easier to read in the later levels because I know his shove range so closely to what it actually is. All right, looks like we move into the money in this game as well. Haven't really had any big finishes yet, just kind of some third place ones. Hopefully we'll make up for that here. This is an easy shove. I would actually get it in with any two cards here, with this player having 7 blinds before the blinds are posted. Sorry, 6 blinds, and then my other opponent having 2. I would consider it an A2 spot. Go ahead and let this one go. Let this one go. We'll let the ace deuce go as well, but it's super borderline. He's raising into a lot of really short stacks here, which makes it look a lot stronger. And ace deuce is certainly not on the stronger end of hands that can get involved there. We're not letting the eights go, obviously. Probably would have shoved over this initial limp. Once we have 2 players in here, ace deuce is unlikely to be the best hand in a 3-way pot. We're really looking for any decent opportunity on this bottom left table, though. Moving to heads up here. Queen 10 is an easy shove. Easy call with the queen jack. 8-6 suited is definite shove for 7 blinds on the button. Would shove this maybe 10 blinds on the button. This player knows how to call me, but this one doesn't. But still, 10 blinds on the button wouldn't be a bad way to go here with 8-6 suited. Playing strictly shove fold in this heads up game by the Nash push fold to equilibrium, as most of you know. Suited jack is an easy shove for 10 blinds. Would love to shove this 8-7 suited. Fortunately, player already shoved in front of us. Easy shove with the king high. You see how quickly the chip stacks diminish here if you let very many hands go. Now that's not to say that when he calls me he won't have the better hand, but by playing this aggressively and shoving more often, I allow myself more chances to lose that flip, and he has to win everyone he gets involved with. I only have to win some of them. We'll let the 6-3 go. We've been playing it pretty aggressively. Let the queen deuce go. Would have shoved this if it were suited. You can call this for let this go. It's kind of marginal. I would say against this player you could call this for 10 blinds. I don't know about 11 though. I would consider Jack 9 offsuit to be pretty marginal at 10 blinds even. I expect that I'm ahead of his range, but I mean we're looking at a very, very tiny edge. Here, as I said before, I'm just looking for any suited face card or something like that for 5 blinds. Queen 5 suited certainly qualifies. Here we almost have 2-1. This player hasn't shoved very much, but we have almost 2-1 with queen high. We'll go ahead and call. And even knowing his hand there with 2-1, I would have certainly called. Fold the 8 deuce. We'll be getting involved here, just even on odds. Shove the 8-7. Shove the king jack. Easy call here with the ace king. Not our day for these situations, I guess. Would have shoved the 10-6 had it been folded to me. Easy shove with the queen 10 suited. This is really close. I would lean to this. You can't limp. We'll shove this one as well. You can't limp here. You can't make a small raise either without committing. So you're shoving for almost 11 blinds into 5 players, and 2 of them are kind of shorter and likely to get involved. Our hand's close. For maybe like 100 less chips, I would have done it. We'll shove this as well. This is a good call with the ace 6. Nothing wrong with that. Easy shove with the king 3 suited. You're shoving a suited king for 10 blinds on the button just to give you an idea. And we had, I want to say like 7.5, 8, something in that area. We'll let the 4, 3. This player's limping in. I haven't seen much of that yet. Kind of looks unusual to me. Get involved with the 3s. Check. Here, if player 1 folds, we'll have to call because of odds. It's a good ISO with the ace jack. And that's how it should be played the way you isolated it. You don't wanna just flat call my 100 chip thing there. That's exactly how you get yourself into awkward situations. So definitely he played it the right way. Obviously I have to get involved with as short as I was. You could shove this. I've been shoving a lot on him. Um, Even so, it wouldn't be bad to take an any 2 range there. Hoping for a little bit better spot since he's willing to walk me and things like that. I think I can let it go against this player. Would have gone with much less. We're not letting this king queen go at 5 blinds. As we can see, not running the best here. I've lost most of my coin flips and even the times I dominated my opponent, but that's not really important. What is important is we look back over the course of the session and analyze our decisions and wonder if there's anything that we could have done differently. I don't immediately recognize anything I probably would have changed. The one I was most in question of was actually the isolation with the 7s. When player 1 shoved for 8 blinds into 5 or 6 players with the 9s. I didn't come along because of the depth of my stack. We would have been behind in that particular hand, but what's important is his range. And as I discussed his range, I think we were significantly enough ahead to get involved. The question is, was it worth risking 16 blinds against that many more players behind us? I chose at the time to not do it. If I could go back, if I changed any decision at all, it probably would have been that one to err to the side of aggression when it actually cost me no money to make that decision. It worked out to my favor. But I actually believe that that one might have been a mistake. I feel good about all the other shoves and all in situations we had. Especially about the post flop. So even though things didn't work out for us this time, not all of our sessions can be winning ones. So I hope y'all took something from that, and I hope everyone learned something. I will be coming out with further live videos, not only from Ultimate Poker, but from WSOP.com for those of you playing there as well. And I hope y'all look forward to those and take care.